330 megabits per second. At 1 millisecond interval, it's line rate, right? So this megabits per second is a common fallacy. Either the packet is on the wire or it's not. So at any given moment in time, you're 100% utilized and you're 0% utilized. There is nothing in between. The only reason why you end up with 30 megabits, 40 megabits is because you're not calculating that instantaneously, you're averaging it over a window of time. Okay? So averages hide throughput, and at 1 millisecond in calculation interval, you can see a hit line rate. Yes?
Particularly relevant if you have things like high frequency trading floating around, because that evokes surges of that type.
And that's exactly what this was the filer couldn't keep up, and everybody said, hey, it's a couple hundred megabits per second, what's the problem? It wasn't. It was 1 gig line rate multiplied by 500 hosts doing it. Okay. The other thing that
20% of the time.
I'm sorry?
Only a fractional percentage of the time.
Only a fractional percentage.
Therefore getting you your low average.
Right. So now the other one that's important in modern day network is QoS, right? And let me just, so one of the nice things about this is, I think this is the right one, is I can quickly see what the DSCP values are, okay? So without having to go through this packet analysis one at a time, I can just say, hey, show me all the DSCP values in the packet. And clearly here, expedited forwarding, this is voice traffic. We have some call control, best effort, and additional, right? These are all enterprise driven, but industry standard. Every carrier uses EF, expedited forwarding, for voice traffic. So here, if I'm troubleshooting a voice, I quickly drag this view over to the packet node. And I say, all right, most of it, right, 90% of it is EF. It's probably not a QoS problem, right? Then you can jump over here and say, all right, show me, if I look at TCP, actually let's just do errors in retransmissions, right, or performance and errors. You can sit here and drag TCP errors, TCP errors overview, drag it over there, see what kind of errors I'm seeing, and it'll tell you that, hey, we got some lost segments here, but only here. So for the most part, no big deal, it just jumped up right about here. And then you can drill down from here, and you can either just bring up other views or send this portion to WireShark. That's why this is actually it's useful, because when I was troubleshooting that microburst problem, I was analyzing half second at a time in the WireShark, because half a second generated about 300,000 packets in half a second, right? And the problem said, yeah, it happened around like 12:30 to 12:31, right? It's like, okay, well, that's 2 minutes, sliced it by half a second interval. There's a lot of files that I had to crunch through, right? So we, of course, we do what every guy does, we wrote a script and crunched through it and found the problem. But here, I imported the whole thing, and instantly I was able to see all the packet loss. So this guy handles multi-gigabyte trace files, which used to be a rarity, but not anymore. This is called Pilot.
Cascade pilot?
Pilot. Because it's the pilot fish that follows a shark.
Well, Riverbend has that whole monocle thing.
Yes.
On that trace that you had, that was only using apparently 300K of your 1 gigabit,
300 megabit.
300 megabit connection of your 1 gigabit connection. I'm still lost as to how you showed then that it's actually fully utilized.
Oh, because it's actually not to go into like the geekness of it, but it's actually how calculus works. Is if you're trying to find an area under a curve, you start to average smaller and smaller chunks, so that those bar graphs, it's kind of like pixelation. I'm trying to see if the best way to. You make the rectangle so small that you end up with a smooth line that follows the curve very, very well, right? Very similar, or almost exactly to the line, and that's how you can get an accurate area, as opposed to using wide, thick rectangles that give you misrepresentation. So when you're looking at a packet, like I said, it's either there is no megabits per second. It's always gigabits per second. It's always 100 megabits per second. Or always 10 megabits per second. It's always line rate.
Just not for a very long time.
Just not all the time, right? Because like I said, the packet's either on the wire or it's not. If it's on the wire, it's gigabit. It's gigabit. It's going at gigabit rate. right? But the next packet takes a little bit of time before it jumps on that
Couldn't
highway.
you find the same thing because the latency is then growing? In other words, if there's congestion, you're gonna get latency, right?
You can, but there's actually two different types of, to deal with. It's, you know, the phrase I would use is, it's left as an exercise for the reader.
Okay.
Or it can be easily shown. I hated that in the textbook, right? You go through a problem, it can be easily shown that this happens. Well, no, it's not that easy, show me. But what happens is, there's actually called propagation delay and serialization delay. So one is speed of light. It's how fast it can go through the fiber optic cable, and it's speed of light, you can't change it, right? Serialization delay happens when you have packets that have to squeeze through a smaller circuit, so everybody kind of queues up behind it,
And they get
right?
latency.
So like if you see, again, we're talking about boundary numbers, when a packet transfer happens at 8 milliseconds, that's typically T1 speed. Okay, if you do the math, T1, 1.5 megabits per second, over 1500 byte Ethernet packet, it takes 8 milliseconds for that packet to squeeze through that T1 circuit, right? So that's the serialization delay. Has nothing to do with propagation,
No, right.
It's how big is that funnel,
Right.
right? So there are two different kind of delays that you're dealing with. Propagation delay and serialization delay. How big is your funnel to send the packets through? Okay? All right, that's it. Any questions?
Do you deal with wireless network in cities or not?
I'm sorry?
Do you deal with wireless network in the city or not?
Yeah, we think it's a fad and it's gonna pass, but it's,
Any chance in
that's
that?
what I'm no, it's actually a huge nightmare for enterprise networks to detect rogue APs and collisions. But yes, we do have a lot of wireless, and actually, that's a great segue.
There you go.
Because you can't, it turns out that in Microsoft world, you can't troubleshoot wireless network using your adapter. It doesn't allow you to see the control traffic, right? So you can't troubleshoot because you're actually not seeing all the frequency and negotiations and whatnot at the controller to wireless NIC level. You're only seeing the packets traversing.
The segue, what he was saying is, Riverbed, right? They produce these air P caps. They sent us 5 of them to give away. We're going to give away 3 today, and the other 2 we're going to give away over the next couple of meetings, just to spread out. You guys come back every meeting. So no, it's we want to give everybody an opportunity. So these, if you want to just explain a little bit about these.
Yeah, it's a USB. Yeah, it's a USB dongle that turns it into a wireless adapter, right? And this guy has the ability to look at the control traffic of your wireless signal. So you can see the negotiation. You can see all the characteristics of a wireless network that you want to troubleshoot, right? And you can use WireShark to decode it, right? Without it, it's you can't do it because it's kind of like FTP. You can't delve into the control traffic. You can only see the data traffic, right? So the control traffic could be messed up, and you would never know unless you had a specialized NIC. And that's what these are.
You know what, this might be the first time. I'm going to take one myself. This is the last one taken, so there's no way that, that you say that I
Breaks an endorsement.